Ahoy, hoy. We flattened the curve. We did. Where are the celebrations for this? Where are the pats on the back? Where are the accolades? Where are the congratulations? Because we did it, right? Have we forgotten what that meant? Hey, Jambi, what did you think flattening the curve meant? Because most of us understood that to be making sure that our hospitals were not overwhelmed with patients. We didn't want to be the next Italy. It's very frightening to some people. Understandably, it was frightening. It was not good visuals coming out of Italy for sure in February. But the social contract that we made was to flatten the curve. And we did that. We absolutely did that. By mid April, we had flattened the curve, probably before that. But the narrative changed. The goalposts moved, the scope creeped, and the mission changed right before our very eyes. And how did that happen? How did something that we all understood as a goal, and we did. There was a lot of discussion about it. There was a lot of freak out about it, and we all decided to stay inside, to turtle for 15 days to stop the spread. Then once 15 days were up, suddenly it was more. Suddenly it was, you know, if we really roll up our sleeves and we really, put our best effort into this staying inside thing, we might just have a chance of completely defeating this horrible, horrible virus. What? That is a pipe dream. It was always a pipe dream. It's crazy. That was never, ever, ever what we agreed to do. Flattening the curve was to keep the spike down, was to dampen down the top of the spike so our medical system could handle it. And we did it. Yay us. Yay medical heroes. Do all the dances you want now because you did it. Great. Thank you. It was messy. A lot of people have died, more people will die, but what we set out to accomplish, we accomplished because we always knew that there was going to be a lot of death and misery from this. We knew it. And we followed those models, those graphs and those charts, the Imperial College model, the Murray chart out of Washington State. These were huge, huge numbers of dead in America. Huge numbers, millions. And those were the charts that we based our public policy off of. And then something very, very curious happened, which is once we realized that those charts were not correct, and yes, they did have social distancing built into them, which is this weird revisionist history that seems to be going on. Hey there, love girl. But once we realized that those models were vastly over exaggerated, they were these doomsday worst case scenario charts. And look, when you're dealing with something like this, again, nobody's going to be perfect. This is obviously something, yes, we should have planned for, right? But we all know that we didn't. Every administration, Republican, Democrat, all the states, everybody's strapped for cash. It doesn't make it right. But everybody was equally unprepared for this, right? And there were very few, people shouting at the top of their lungs at the right time. I happen to be one of them, but I don't have a national voice. I have a voice amongst my family and friends. And back in January, when I was screaming about this mysterious Wuhan virus, they were like, go put on your tinfoil hat, buddy. What are you doing? And I didn't get mad. It just wasn't on the national news. And in January, we were talking about impeachment. It's all we were talking about. But the curve is flattened. We did what we set out to do. And for some reason, instead of giving ourselves the pat on the back that we should be giving ourselves, again, it's not over. Nobody's saying it's over, right? But phase one is over. Phase one was flatten the curve. Phase two was always, we got to get back to real life, because when we saw this thing, well, again, I'm in the minority, but some of us saw it come in January, and I was assuming, I saw it in December, but and even in early January, mid January, late January, a lot of us had already assumed that this thing was out. Scott Gottlieb actually was one of the few in January that essentially said, "Look, we should act as if this thing is already out and already spreading around the world, right?" And of course, we didn't do it. And again, we understand why we didn't do it. But the point is that a lot of us have always assumed that this thing was just is it going to be seasonal? Who knows? If it mutates and evolves, then it will become a seasonal. If it doesn't mutate enough, it will not. But regardless, we all assumed, based on the trajectory and what the little bit of data that we had at the time, that this thing was going to get out, right? And then that's where flatten the curve came from, which was, look, this thing is going to hit us, right? But one thing that we don't want to have happen is we don't want to come out looking like Italy. We don't want our people suffering in the hallways of ICUs. We can't have people dying needlessly. And by that, what we meant was we can't have people dying because they cannot have access to our medical system, right? That is flattening the curve. That's exactly what the understanding was. There was no official contract, but anybody denying that that wasn't the original agreement is lying, is trying to revise history. Because what has happened is the goalposts have moved. And there's a lot of people talking about this, and they've been talking about this for weeks, but the groundswell is starting to sort of really rise up here, which is, it is flattening the curve has become making things safe to come out. And what I don't understand is, like, who believes in safe? Who who thinks that there's such a thing as safe? Who are you? My kids don't even think that there's such a thing as safe. Life has risks. This is new. Yes, it's contagious and shitty. But you look at the numbers, and even the worst numbers, again, like, I'm not a big fan of, you know, choosing wrong numbers, but a lot of people seem to be doing that to try and make this thing worse than it is, to excuse their chosen path, which is to lock everybody down. But we flatten the curve. Now what are we doing? Now what are we doing? It really seems like some of us, not me, but it seems like a lot of people are trying to protect us from us, because the main argument for not opening up and not letting people go outside is, oh, you're going to spread it, right? But once again, if you are at risk, if you are elderly, if you are scared, it's okay. It's not, I don't mean that as a pejorative. It's not, I'm not trying to be offensive here, but if you're scared, I get it. It's scary. And I totally get it. Because look, in January, I was you. I was freaking out, freaking out. I was the only one that was freaking out. Everybody was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "There's this virus coming, and it looks like it's going to be like, Armageddon, zombie apocalypse. What are we doing?" And over time, I've paid attention. I've seen how this thing works. I've seen who it affects. I've seen what the numbers are. I've seen where the numbers have been wrong. I've seen where they've been right. Obviously, there's still some places where we don't know what the official numbers are. But I'm an intelligent adult human being, a free, breathing human American adult who is supposed to be in this country free to make my own decisions. And that includes, in your opinion, a stupid decision. I don't think it's a stupid decision. I am in charge of my family. I'm in charge of me. Well, I'm half in charge of my family, but you know what I mean. So, really, who are you to insist that I huddle in my hidey hole? You can't do that. Hey, Patrick. That's the difference here. If I say to you, hey, Patrick, do you think that we flatten the curve? Or are you one of these people that thinks that flatten the curve means make everything 100% safe so we can emerge? Let's hear it. Sure. I'm kind of new at this. How do you get in? Sure. Go for it. I think that you have to ask to join. There you go. Hey there. Hi. Where are you?
I go.
Hey. Nice.
Sorry, so you're relatively new to Periscope.
Yeah. Yeah. I just jumped on. I'm tired of you arguing with my friends on Facebook. So,
Gotcha.
how about you?
No, I've been on this for a while. I've been on a lot of social media platforms for a while, and I actually do a sports show and I do ring announcing here in Chicago. So
You have a great voice. I could tell right away. I do. I'm in marketing and advertising, and
nice.
I've written probably 10,000 radio commercials in my time. So, nice pipes.
I appreciate it. So what you're saying, though, I feel like a lot of people that say that, flattening the curve is already done and all this, extra. I
Sure.
feel like it's too wide of a statement, though. I think if we really parse out what we're talking about and say, well, flattening the curve doesn't mean that everything goes away. It means that these numbers, like other countries, start drastically going down. And that's only true in a few states. It's not true across the whole U.S. So if it was true across the majority of the U.S., I would say, okay. Unfortunately, just the other day, Illinois alone had the highest amount of COVID-19 deaths since it hit the U.S. So it's not happening in every state. So I could see why, like, let's say our governor is saying, hey, stay at home. Certain other states that weren't affected as much by this are obviously going down. They're ending their, curve quicker because they didn't get hit as hard, it seems. So I would say, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I would say probably as a full country, I would wait until, or at least these certain states, wait until their numbers go down, and then they state by state can give a go ahead. But again, that would also limit, state to state travel for right now, purely based on certain states not fully recovering to the amount or to the non-severity that other states are already setting at.
Right.
Because China did it, Italy did it, and they did it as a full country. They waited until.
Oh, I lost you. That was a good point. He's back. There you go. I don't know what happened. There you are again. No worries.
Hang up on that. Yeah, so I would say, like Italy did it as a full country, though, although they don't have our numbers as far as how many people live in the country. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't think that should stop us from saying, hey, look at these other big countries that did these, did these measures, that they're not, those people weren't going crazy. Hey, we are getting our rights taken away. We're not doing this and that and the other thing. They weren't necessarily, not everybody was doing all that. So the fact that we're making noise shows you kind of how entitled we are in the U.S. And then second,
Entitled to what?
no,
Freedom?
entitled as thinking that we're owed something constantly. Um, I think we believe as American citizens that we're owed something constantly by everybody else. And a lot of these other countries that were hit hard by this waited and actually waited until the majority of these COVID-19 deaths and the cases started plummeting. When they started plummeting, then they started opening things back up. So there were other measures taken. But here in the US, it's, constant. Well, I want to go outside. Well, I want to go do this. Well, I want to go do that. It's like, well, great. But again, as we've seen, as people start doing whatever the hell they want to do, all these case numbers keep rising. So in case we haven't noticed, if they're not fully plummeting as a country, we're probably not going to be off a lockdown.
Yeah.
And if I wish people would listen and use their heads, and maybe we would be off a lockdown a little bit quicker. I think by now we could have easily been off of it, but yet people want to do what they want to do, and the cases keep rising.
So it sounds like that would be your theory as to why Chicago had an increase, that people just aren't obeying.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, not a majority of us. There's some of us that, yes, like the further you get into the suburbs, yes. The more you get into the big cities, you start to find a lot of people, well, I'm going to go do my thing. Well, I'm going to open my while I'm going to open my barbershop back up, or I'm going to open that back up, or I'm going to go against orders and do this. It's like, great, do it. But as you keep interacting with more and more people through business and through whatever you're doing, and these cases keep going up, it's not my fault sitting at home that these cases keep going up. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because guess what? I've watched other countries do it. I'm not just saying, oh, it didn't happen anywhere else, and we're somehow special here in the U.S. That's not what I'm saying.
Right. Well, you mentioned before that you thought that we were entitled. We
Yes,
had sort of
we
an
are in the
entitlement
U.S.
problem.
We,
What do
we,
you think?
we are in the U.S.
Yeah. What do you but you think that people think that they're entitled to something, and what is that? Just to
Do whatever the hell they want, as you've seen. There's people in this country that is like, okay, well, I don't give a shit about the order. I'm basically going to crap on that order, and if it's a stay-at-home order, and say, you know what, it's okay, because it's more of a suggestion, so that's great. So if it is, it's okay. I can go out and do whatever I want. Awesome. But then you see the numbers start rising, and then more and more people bitch and moan about how they're not able to do what they want to do because the stay-at-home order keeps getting extended. So they're actually working against their own benefit here. So it's and yet they're still silly enough to keep doing what they're doing while working against their own benefit.
are you quarantined? Are you shut in?
Yeah, I'm inside. I've been inside. I've been doing all my shows every show I can do, every podcast, everybody I can reach by just being at home. I've been doing that, making sure that I'm still keeping connections, like verbal
Sure.
connections with people. But yeah, outside of that, I'm just kind of waiting. I'm waiting and watching
But
and seeing how much longer we have, at least in Illinois. I have a feeling we're going to be out in about mid-June. I don't think it's going to end right at the end of May like we thought it might. I think because of the spike in cases, like, what is it, 2 days ago, a day ago, 2 days ago, I think they're going to probably advance it another 2 weeks. I hope not another month. I hope it's just 2 weeks. And then by mid-June, I should be back in studio.
But what about if there's still cases in 2 weeks, and there's still
No. If
spikes,
the cases are
in a month?
spiking, then obviously no. Then the stay-at-home order extends here in Chicagoland. But
For how
again,
long?
until they get people to be either A, smart enough to stay their ass at home, or B, until eventually it works its way through the system of who it's infected and the millions of people that live in Chicagoland. If it can infect its way through, and I guess it's going to have to go through, and I hate to say it like this, but it's going to kill who it's going to kill, and that's a bad thing to say, but then it will. And then when that's finished for right now, for this wave of it, when that's finished, then they'll have no choice, because the cases will then plummet on their own. But I don't want to wait for people to be smart enough to step inside just so that other people die. Like I don't want I don't want that to be the case. I wish people were smarter than that. But unfortunately, we've shown that as a country, we're not all that intelligent. We love to do things that we're told not to do. Um, so that kind of goes against our very nature, I guess, in a way. But too bad. It goes against our nature. Great. But again, there are other people that have to stay at home that have lost their jobs because they can't afford to pay them at their jobs. There's been people in my industry of broadcasting that have been laid off. Some have been furloughed where they'll get their job back when this is over, but a majority of them have been laid off, so they don't get. They're not getting paid. I mean, they'll get unemployment for right now, but
It's not the same thing.
huh?
That's not the same. I mean, it's not the
Right?
same money.
Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely not.
Pales in
So,
comparison.
and
It's
especially a few of them
terrible.
that got let go were good radio personalities here in Chicago that were making good money,
Yeah.
and now they have to go on unemployment. So there's some of there's those of us who heed warnings and go, maybe there's something to this. Maybe the medical experts are not BSing us. Maybe the scientists are actually trying to, bust their ass day and night to find this vaccine, that actually fits with this. And they're trying to do this, and they're basically battling against the will of the ignorant American citizens who are doing whatever the hell they want to do. And it's just ramping up cases in certain places. So it's like, you know, why not just stay at home for a couple weeks, guys? You guys that are out there wanting to go out and do everything, stay your ass at home for just a couple weeks. All of you, stay at home. See if those cases don't drop drastically, and see if they don't lift those stay-at-home orders. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that effing simple, but people don't care, and that is what makes us. Like I said, you say we feel like we're entitled to something. You were quoting what I was saying.
Oh no, I was just quoting you. Actually, I
That's
was
what I'm
gonna.
saying. I say you were quoting what I was saying.
Yeah, yeah. I actually
And it's
disagree with
true.
you a little bit on that point. I think that yeah, there's idiots. We're surrounded by idiots, right? Like that's the human condition. Um, it's interesting though because I think a lot of the laws and things that we have are designed for stupid people. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the laws and regulations and things are designed to protect stupid people from themselves, and those tend to spill over and affect the rest of us who are non-stupid people.
What do you mean when you say?
Well, my point is that control trying to control stupid people or other people, what they do is kind of folly. Um,
Well, I mean, it worked in other nations that are not the U.S., and I'm just saying, one of these nations happens to be, if I'm correct, they have like in China, they have more people in China than we have in the U.S., and
yes, they
yet
do.
they were able to obey a stay-at-home order. They were able to obey social distancing. They were able to obey all this simple shit that's easy to get if you're intelligent and or even halfway intelligent, but yet and then they were able to be, of course, the first ones that are saying, hey, we're now able to lift a lot of restrictions. We have these drive through testing sites where you don't even have to get out of your car. We have these things that we're going to make in place to help limit the spread of this. Now that it has hit so bad in the beginning, we are trying to act on this fast, and I feel that our country didn't do as well in that as we could have.
Well,
um,
China welded people in their apartments. They
Again, we're not going to weld people in our apartments here in the U.S., but what I'm saying is, unfortunately, some of the idiots I truly believe need to be. Um, I mean, honestly, I mean, it may sound like a joke, but
but you
honestly,
but you
if
can't
you're not smart
control.
enough to not spread a virus, then
Let them.
maybe you shouldn't be outside.
Let me ask you this question. So you were talking before about how I asked you how long it would go, and you essentially said, after a certain point, you're just going to have to let it, let the idiots, all get sick and let it burn through. But that's essentially what the alternate strategy is right now, which is,
No, it's an alternate strategy only because the idiots came out.
well,
If they
no,
would
but
have
but
stayed their
but
ass
the,
at home, it wouldn't have been an alternate
no,
strategy.
look, I think that the alternate strategy, which has been around for about 6 weeks, which I subscribe to, and I did since the beginning, frankly, was we knew who this virus affected. The vast majority of the people who are affected by this virus are elderly or have pre-existing conditions. Yes, there are certainly, others that get it. There's certainly
which is a
different.
big percentage of our country.
Well, no. Again, but the flatten the curve, and that's the title of this thing, which is the flatten the curve was the agreement that we made based on what we were seeing out of Italy, which was the ICUs overflowing, this sort of mass misery, the healthcare system not being able to handle the spike. And when we realized that it was going to spike here, we all flipped out, right? Which was, my governor, wanted, 40,000 ventilators. And of course, we found out that ventilators actually probably, kill more people than they help, but that's sort of neither here nor there. But we all hunkered in to flatten the curve. And the definition of flatten the curve was to keep that spike from overwhelming our hospitals, because we knew that it was coming. We knew it was going to be bad, fairly widespread. The models and graphs that we had, that we were basing our policy on, frankly, were these fantastical, worst case scenario projections, which, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
frankly, I think were helpful. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have paid attention to them, but that's sort of what we were going on. And even though New York, where I'm at, bore the brunt of this, we saw in probably the second week of April, for sure, that we had flattened that curve and subdued that initial spike. Our
But again,
ICUs
you
were
got
not
hit
over.
earlier as it spread across the country. So that's what I'm saying. You
Well, but
got
no,
hit. You guys got hit earlier, and that's what I'm saying is a lot of these states that got hit later than you are then saying we don't care about these
well,
stay-at-home orders and we're going to do what we want to do, and that's what makes a lot of
I
people
mean, to be
upset.
fair, Seattle, the West Coast got it before us. Seattle was one of the first hit, and then we had the cruise ship, and then
Mm.
LA shut down, and then New York shut down. But New York had actually, for the most part, the businesses in New York, at least like sort of the white collar, sort of corporate jobs, had all, voluntarily, socially distanced and worked from home. And it told their employees to work from home. So it was an interesting thing. People seem to forget that, especially about New York, which was, people didn't wait for sort of a governmental like order, right? Like
Right. Well,
we were 3 weeks.
while you guys were social distancing and certain people were telling their employees to work from home, our current president I was out calling it a hoax. I mean, it's
He didn't call the virus a hoax. He
it
called
doesn't necessarily make
the media treatment was the hoax. To be fair,
right. Even though, well, no, he said it was a hoax that it's going to get bad. He was saying it's not going to get bad. It's not even going to be that. Now it turned into, well, it's it's 15. It's probably not even going to be that bad. And here we are because he refused to pay attention to every other major country around us that was getting hit hard by this. And for some reason, I guess wasn't smart enough to take it seriously and thought that we weren't going to get hit that bad. I mean,
yeah. I don't really want to
that's
go.
just stupidity is all.
I don't really want to go down the Trump tunnel,
Oh no,
honestly.
that was it.
But
That was my only thing on that. Was
well,
just
so let
that
me.
I wish maybe because I feel a lot of these states or a lot of these people that did this were following ignorant orders.
I don't think that anybody knew what they were doing,
Mm.
frankly. And I'm actually. It sounds like I'm more willing than you to give a little bit of not a pass. I mean, it sucks, but like my governor signed an executive order. My governor Cuomo signed an executive order on March 21st requiring nursing homes to take, virus positive patients back in nursing. He's killed, and that order has probably killed, 25, 30,000 grandparents in New York State. In hindsight, that's criminal, but at the same time, I don't think that, I'm not Cuomo's biggest fan, but I don't think he would do something like that on purpose. You know what I mean? Like I kind of think that there was a lot of public officials, a lot of experts who, again, had the best of intentions. Everybody was trying their stuff. A lot of people didn't know this was a new virus. We didn't know a lot about this. China, still is refusing to give us, information about this thing.
Well,
We had the
that's
WHO.
because of the back and forth with our government. But yeah,
Again,
yeah.
we might need to agree to disagree on that, but so let me ask my question to you though. So you sort of doped it out like throughout the summer. I asked you like, what if this keeps going on? What if the stupid people keep breaking the rules? And in your opinion, that's what's causing the spikes? What if the spikes keep continuing, right? So a big part of sort of the counter strategy argument, which is, quarantine the at risk and let the other people go back to work with the knowledge, right? That there are going to be more infections. There will be deaths of younger people. But again, we are a society of adults that, at a certain point, you can't protect everybody from risk. And if an adult person claims that they understand what the risk is and goes out and gets this thing, then what, I mean,
Again, but if they don't get sick enough to die, but they infect other people that do, again, what does
but
that
but
really
you're
say?
you're quarantined. How is that going to affect you?
No, I'm saying you're talking about these supposed adults that are going to go out and say, "I understand the risk," and if they get infected with this, the problem is even if it doesn't hurt them, they could possibly be then in turn infecting other human beings that
Not if those
are
other human
not
beings are if those other
that are high
human
risk.
beings are at risk or feel like that they want to stay inside, then they won't be infected by the stupid masses. Um, I mean, like if
Again, I
every
couldn't help it though. See, I could go. So here's the issue that I find in your statements. So I work for a radio station.
Mhm.
I go there if I got it. My fiance is at risk. She's a high risk. My daughter actually is a high risk. My father is a high risk. My closest members of family that are right around me are high risk. So for me to say I'm a willing adult knowing I could get it or I know the risk, it would be stupid for me and for a majority of people no matter what your job is. If you know you have people around you, a lot of these willing adults like you're saying actually have shown to not care whether or not they get it because they know they're not going to die from it, but yet they're not thinking about the next person that they give it to. They just care about them and hey, I'm not going to die from it. It seems to be the general message we're getting, and that's not a very intelligent way to run things. But
Well, but it comes down to control, doesn't it? Like you can't again like that was my point about the stupid people and the stupid laws, right? Which is the sign at the beach, and I'm stealing this from Adam Carolla. He just had this on. I saw him on a podcast doing this, but like the signs at the beach, at least when I was growing up, were, you know, pick up your trash, right? Enjoy the beach. They had the times where the beach was open, right? And you go back to the beach today, and there's 8 freaking signs on the beach, which is like, don't build a fire, don't, leashes must be, 6 feet or less, no, no frisbee. It's like it it just it's impossible to control morons, and it just seems like
and see, you and I see that
there's
differently. You say it control morons, but I see it as things keep happening, as bad things happen, then whoever it is, whether it's the beaches, whether it's scientists, whether it's whatever, as things happen and they learn from those, they learn what to put as kind of a quote unquote warning label next time
it's
or
not
an
a warning
experimental
label.
label next time.
It's not a warning label. It's an enforceable law,
Okay.
which you can either get a fine. If you don't pay the fine, you go to jail. I mean, these are, the
So
founding
why not
fathers.
so why not just pay attention to what's on the signs? How simple is that? Pay
But
attention to what's on the signs, and maybe you don't have to worry and go throughout your day going, man, am I going to get a fine today? No, because I'm not being a fucking idiot. Like,
yeah, well, look, I'm vehemently against these lockdowns, but I've been inside. I haven't gone out, and I will certainly wear a mask if I go to a store that requires me to. I'm not, I get your point, but
well, you
the
said you're against them, but you're still inside, right? So you're in New York. You guys can't go outside your doors.
in my neighborhood we can. It
You
is
can.
a
Okay. So
fairly
no.
tight. Well,
So
hold
you
on, hold on a
can.
second.
You can. You can
Well,
personally do it.
hold on a second. Yes, but we can't go to parks. We can't go to playground. Everything is closed,
Okay.
and you're sort of you're sort of sequestered around your if you live in the suburbs, you got a yard and a neighborhood. The people in the cities, um, it's not it's not going to go well for the people in the cities. And we could chalk that up to stupid people doing what stupid people do, but if you have kids and you live in New York City or Chicago, and you are by by force of law homebound, right? And your kids are not in school, and come summertime the camps are closed, and you are still sort of barred from going to the public parks or the beaches, and your job's gone.
Uh-huh.
This is kind of the overarching point here, which
Well,
is,
this is where parents have lightened up a little bit over the generations, because the my grandparents or my mother's parents, if this issue would have presented itself back when they were having her as a child, it wouldn't have been the same issue of, oh my god, I got to get out of the house so much now. Oh my gosh, I got to do this. But see, the invent of phones, social media, other things that we're so prone to, and then the kids are getting things younger and younger. Now they're getting the wanting to have instant gratification as younger and younger. Now it's creating an issue. So it's not just, like for me, even if I had, because I have a daughter, even if I have my daughter with me and I'm doing my shows, I'm still not freaking out and losing my mind because we have a stay at home order. Like, it's just not in my fabric because I was taught differently when I was growing up. So some people, yeah, some parents cannot handle having kids running around and not knowing what the hell to do with them because they're so used to them being preoccupied with other shit while they get their own stuff done. They're not used to that, and so they don't know how to handle it. So that is something I do see. Maybe not where you live, but definitely around me.
here comes somebody else. Hi,
Oh,
Ludwig.
oh, hello, little big.
Or well, as well as can be.
I, I just, I was liking the conversation. I think part of the problem is this. Before this pandemic, a lot of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck, and
You're not wrong.
we're talking a good portion of Americans. A good portion of Americans would not even have $500 in savings. Um, there's Americans right now starving.
Yep.
They're going without food. It's not a matter of being trapped in the house with their kid. It's a matter of not knowing if they're going to be able to feed their kid next week.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of these families are not willing to go and get, like here in Illinois, I've talked to a few families that are a little too proud, I guess, that are like, yo, we're running out of food now. We did this, we did that. And we go into our savings a bit. I was like, you guys lost your job, right? Oh, yeah. Why didn't you call the state and get an expedited food stamp card for right now, temporarily? And maybe that'll help you out a little bit, because of course, if you have too much pride, unfortunately, it's not your first thought, right? Your first thought is not, let me go get government assistance. Your first thought is, how can I make this work? Because I've made this work before. How can I make this work now? That's their first thought. So I feel that not everybody's doing that, but a few people are too proud to go and say, hey, at least in Illinois, I need to go and find out how I can help out and get government assistance right now. And then when this is over, when this levels out,
I agree, Kelly.
then I can go ahead and uncheck that box.
Yeah, I
Well,
think I think it's a little bit easier than that. I think that this is I know way too many people that have lost their jobs and it's absolutely devastating. But to them, the answer is very simple. Let me go back to my job. Like, what this is. Again, look, we didn't quite finish this thread, but what I
Right.
was going to say is that you mentioned before, if this went on long enough, that you said something like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said something like, let the stupid people all get sick and burn itself out and whatever, right? But that is part of the alternate strategy here, which is if you feel unsafe, stay in, let all us stupid people go out. And because our health care can actually, we did flatten the curve because our health care can handle it. Some people get sick, but what will happen is we'll get herd immunity and you'll be able to come out. That'll happen quicker if we let all the stupid people, again, I'm putting myself in that bucket, go out of our houses and go back to work.
yeah.
But the longer we drag this out, the more unnecessary economic misery we're creating, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this would have been
Again, we
over.
could have avoided a lot of it had we acted a lot sooner. That's my
Well,
only point.
but
This would have been
no
over
time
weeks
machines.
ago. This would have been over weeks ago if we just let nature take its course. We could do precautions. You could have said, elderly, sick people, stay home. The government will give you assistance. We'll give you free Uber to deliver your goods and medicines. We could have quarantined the elderly. We could have quarantined the sick, and just as you stated, let nature take its course. We, as a society, as a species, we would build up an immunity to it for anybody that doesn't pass away. This is the way it's always been. Now, what they're doing is they're saying there might be a second and third wave. Are they going to open up the economy and then shut it down again? I mean,
No,
it just
and that's the thing, and that's why they were trying to have people have stay-at-home orders for a while they're trying to work their ass off to get this vaccine together, so that when this inevitably happens again, it will not be to the severity of, oh my God, our economy's shutting down.
did you see
Like,
the CDD numbers or the CDC numbers that just came out this past week?
as far as infected or deaths,
That's
here, hold on. I didn't see of recent. I haven't checked it in a few days. What is
the
it?
30 something thousand, 38,000. Now the government told us there was over 60 something thousand deaths.
Uh-huh. Here,
Now
let
this
me
isn't
hold
a,
on. Let me go to CDC here.
this isn't like a 6 week period.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine those 30 something thousand are probably questionable. But even if those were true, even if the 60,000 was true, more people than that die of the flu every year. We
Okay,
don't,
over a 12-month period, not in as rapid of a period as we've had.
And
That's
so
the
with
thing
and
that
with the
that's the
and with the
falsehood I like
vaccine
to correct.
and with the vaccine, but the vaccine obviously is iffy.
I ain't
But
taking no vaccine.
Cases in the U.S. here.
They'll
Sorry,
have
I'm
to
trying
put
to
a
get this
gun.
goddamn.
They'll have to put
Yeah.
a gun in my head
So
before I take the vaccine.
CDC last updated CDC on May 13th, 2020. 1.3. Let's just call it almost 1.4 million cases total cases, right?
yep,
And then and then 82,246 deaths. That's in just the U.S. Updated as of yesterday on the CDC's website.
right. And they're going to revise those down because they have been trying to coordinate how the states report the deaths.
Uh-huh.
And I know this is a slightly controversial issue, and Ludwig just brought it up, but it, the I have friends that are doctors here, and what they do is when there's somebody that dies and has 13, my dad died like 2 years ago, and my dad was very unwell, and when he died I went down there and I went to the nursing home, like, what did he die of? And the nurse looked at me and she goes, take your pick, honey. So like that happens a lot, especially with elder patients, and what they've been doing is they have been over indexing on marking these deaths as COVID deaths. Now,
Yep.
one thing I've learned though is that it's not as nefarious or as CYA as it may seem. Which I do think that there is some CYA going on.
Well,
There is some
but they
puppet.
did say
Let
confirm
me.
though. They did
Well,
say
I
confirmed
know
it though.
it's hard to confirm, but one thing that we do know is that a lot of hospitals have lost all of their elective medical
Yep.
business, right? It's been that's obvious. I think that that's sort of inarguable, and they did it again for a good reason, because everybody thought that there was going to be a spike, so they canceled all the elective surgery, and then they very quickly had to lay off and fire a lot of medical professionals around the country. So what's happening is a lot of these hospitals are trying to recoup money by liberally applying a COVID death label to things that may or may not be. That's all I'm saying. And it's like you can understand the the thought process behind this. You know what I mean?
What's the government give for every case? I'm like almost $40,000, thirty
Yeah,
seven
yeah,
thousand
they do
dollars.
pay money, and the states are doing that too. There's they
Yep.
when the federal government is giving out repayments to the states to help them deal with it financially, they certainly put a number on a number. They put a dollar figure on a case. And so again, it's not that everybody's nefarious, but you can absolutely understand that there is an interest in, when in doubt, report it like this. Again, there's no hard data on this, but it is they are redefining what they are
Right. So there's no
doing.
so it's funny that you say a statement like a positive statement after saying there's no hard data on this. So if I heard something talked about in any other way, not virus, in any other way, and somebody said to me, we know we don't have any hard data on it, but we know that this is happening. Okay,
Well,
cool.
there's been shit tons of accounts, and even here in New York, the nursing homes, because Cuomo was trying to blame the nursing home deaths on the nursing homes, the nursing home lobby actually came out with a lot of paperwork and publicly, and threw it in Cuomo's face, and they said, no, you are classifying a lot of deaths that are as COVID deaths that are not really COVID deaths, and so it's been actually a thing here. So there, when I say that there's no hard data, I mean that it's kind of hard to have
Isn't
a
what you just said
definitive.
the opposite?
It's he
That
meant
he
it's
was trying to say they weren't COVID and
he
said that
meant
don't
that
you
it's
blame it on the
questionable.
hospital?
He meant that it's questionable data because there has been some fraud within this, and our government has lied to us a lot in the past. So
Yeah,
we
I
go
know.
find,
Yeah,
and
I
I'd
hear
like
that a
to
lot
ask
too.
this. I'd like to ask this
it's
question.
not untrue,
It's
and
not.
it's not like you can put a number on it, but
I know it's not untrue. But what I'm saying is, this is where, and not to say that the pumping up the deaths is a conspiracy. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, based on that and what I hear from a lot of people, whenever I normally hear the phrase, "Well, the government's lied to us before," normally that's with a lot of conspiracy theorists. Normally, not always. It's with a lot of conspiracy theorists that have so many other conspiracies about this
most
country.
adults
Yeah,
Yeah,
most
that had any
adults.
experience with the government say that.
Most Americans feel that the media, the school system, and the government is not always truthful with us. This isn't
Correct.
conspiracy.
No,
Majority
but it goes farther though. There's
majority of
reasonings
Americans
why and
feel
all this
this
other
way.
BS.
But let me ask this question: how come Walmart workers are not getting sick?
That's
That's
a
not
hard
true.
question
Walmart
too.
workers have had COVID-19 and have been sent home, and they actually have shut down a few here in Chicagoland alone.
Yeah.
A few of the locations had shut down because the workers got sick, and all they were overnight unpacking workers. They weren't even shopping in the store with regular daytime shoppers, and yet
That's a
they
good
got sick,
question.
which means somebody got it while they were at home or
Well,
somewhere
and
and
that
gave it to other workers overnight.
and that's an important statistic, because they had that statistic here last week in New York that 61% of the new cases, and I don't know if you guys saw this, but Cuomo read that statistic on live TV and had to read it again and was dumbfounded because 61% of the new cases were caught at home. And it
Because
does.
other people are catching. So this is the thing: caught at home, and that they're going out and getting tested, and they turn out that they caught it at home. More than likely, what happened was those people that caught it were going out. They came home, gave it to somebody else, and then that person was tested, and they turns out they were at home the whole time, but they got tested now. Well, how did they get it? Because idiot number one over here went outside. It. You know
But
what I'm saying?
yes, but that brings back to the sort of the one of the original points, which is like, it's like, how long are you going to avoid this thing? Like, we have an economy.
I've been doing a good job so far.
Well, but
That's
no, but that's the
Yeah, but
point.
you're doing all
You
right
are welcome to
financially.
do that. You are free to do that, and nobody. And again, like, we'll do a GoFundMe for your Netflix. Like, it's seriously. Um, I think that maybe we have to call it something like "Let the stupid people kill themselves," right? Like some sort of hashtag where everybody that wants to get out of their house can sort of meet in the middle of the country, take off our clothes and rub against each other, and we'll all get sick. Some of us will die, but the virus will burn itself out, and it'll be sort of the great freedom orgy of
And Sweden,
2020.
Sweden didn't do a lockdown. Um, and they practice little social distancing. They stop sporting events, but all businesses are
sporting events
still
and
open.
social distancing was in place in Sweden, though,
Well,
and
all
and the fact that we still had it here in the U.S. and a lot of people here ignored it, and then those cases spiked. That's what we need to
yeah,
clarify.
but Sweden, the kids are still going to school.
Yeah.
Let's not act like we're
No,
completely the same as Sweden, because
right, you're
we're a
not.
lot.
But Sweden didn't lock down their economy, and their kids
They
are
didn't.
still going to school, and their cases are no worse than anywhere else.
And I'll add to that, they made the same mistake with the nursing homes, and that's one of the things that's infuriating to me, because I've been following this since December. Like, I'm one of the few people I know that saw those TikToks in like late December of the Chinese people falling over, and I was freaked out. And everybody that I knew was like, "You're a conspiracy theorist." I'm like, "No, there's a thing coming. We got to, But the fact is that even back then we knew that this thing affected old people, right?
Yep.
Like big time. And that's one of the few things that's been consistently true this whole time. And for us to not have protected our nursing homes any better than we have, and even sweet, like that's a real tragedy, because it really feels like we've over indexed on locking everybody inside and sort of this one size fits all policy for New York and for Nebraska, where we also just didn't pay attention to the people that we've known all along we have to pay attention to. Like, ironically, we've killed grandma, right? Like,
Right.
it's infuriating.
Well, an elderly are susceptible to anything that comes along.
That's true.
It's unfortunate part of nature. But to shut down the whole world economy, you know how much I don't even think people fully appreciate what's coming next.
I
Because
agree with you.
you guys, they have just screwed up the whole food chain of the world.
It's going to
And
be Thunderdome. It's going to be bad.
there's gonna be big problems coming the fall, and
It's going to be bad.
coming to spring, it's gonna be really bad.
It's terrible. These people that I know so many people that have gotten laid off.
And I'm
fired.
sorry, as we're laying blame here on, or that it's going to be so bad that it's going to be so bad, so bad, so bad. Well, anybody that would hear that's logical, would ask the following question. And the following question is, who then would be to blame for the fact that we are heading towards the economy that we're going to be heading towards?
Oh, I could care less about blame.
What is that?
Right, because we can find somebody who could actually fix it.
I'd rather talk about solutions.
Yeah, no, like the blame game this is like the blame game and the time machine are the two fellow travelers that aren't very helpful.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like, again.
Well, unfortunately, if who I believe is at fault here still continues to do stupid shit, then I don't see how we as a society in the U.S. get any better as a whole.
Who do you blame?
Who do you think?
Our current government.
Okay.
I think our current government's reaction speed to handling this, and the fact that they don't handle this well from inception of it getting here.
It's not the current government; it's any government.
That's not true, dude. You look at other countries who, when it first hit, may have not handled it well in the first week or so, but then got their ass in gear and are now clearing a lot of their major areas, where we're still sitting here going with our thumbs up our asses, saying, what's going on?
The country is huge. Italy's the size of Vermont.
We don't...
It's like...
But we don't want to take responsibility that we're the ones fucking this up. Yeah.
Well, no, we don't. Look, again...
We'll blame anybody else but ourselves. And I think that
we're not blaming anybody. I'll blame China. That's maybe who I can blame. I can blame the WHO.
Gotcha.
They lied. They kept the information hidden. They downplayed it. They made the WHO downplay it. They had that tweet up, and they just deleted it recently, but it was a January 14th tweet from the WHO that said there is no human to human contact from this thing. The WHO. Like, that's, if you want to look around for blame, maybe we start there.
Me personally, I could care less about blame. We got a very small window to make it so this is not a catastrophe on a massive
scale. Ludwig, when you say you don't want to place blame, but let's say in a situation, and this is what I think we're not thinking about, if it's a government that is running this country that is not willing to fully help us out, then why would we not say, hey, maybe we want to have somebody else or a government replaced to maybe a government that is going to actually give a shit about its citizens when something like this comes along, and stop downplaying it when it gets here. When death knocks on your door, do you walk away or do you fucking create a solution? Like, and what are we doing here? We're blaming China. We're blaming everybody else around us, except for the people that we put in place currently to help protect us or come up with solutions that are fucking dilly-dallying in the government.
Well, here's what I would do. First off,
that's what I'm saying.
First off, I'm a huge critic of the United States government, but I'm a huge critic of all the governments and agencies. Second, here's what Americans do. So you said that you feel that the government's not listening to us. A lot of Americans feel that way, no matter what side they're on, liberal, conservative, whatever. They all feel like the government
Correct.
is listening. So
Yep.
here's how we solve this problem: massive protests for a week straight. Everybody goes out to the streets. Now, if the corona's the thing and the pandemic's the thing, everybody's going to get it. So now we all go to the streets. We demand to go back to work. So now everybody gets it because everybody, I'm talking all Americans, just go to the streets on a single day. No violence, no rioting, no destroying stores, no stripping stores clean. Everybody go to the streets, go to your capitals, go to your town mayor's office, whatever. Everybody just have one day of protest in America. Now we're all going to get it, and then we tell the government, F you and your quarantine. We got it. You can't stop us. We want to go back to work.
Freedom orgy.
Yeah, if you want. I'm sure
Again, if we
will
could do
probably
that,
help.
if we could do that without, hold on, if we could do that with avoiding the possible even bigger spike of this fucking thing, then maybe, yeah, I would agree with you.
Who
But
cares?
it doesn't seem like that's going to
Yeah,
happen.
I'm in the camp of
We
who
got two
cares.
options. We either get it and deal with it, and the people
Yes.
dying. It's unfortunate. The Spanish flu killed millions of Americans. They were stacking up Americans on the streets of New York for trucks to come by and pick them up. It's very unfortunate. So it either ravages us and takes out maybe 0.1%, and we get on with our daily lives and what's best for the common good, or it's nothing and we get back on with our daily lives because it's for
Yeah,
what's the common good.
I agree with that. I think that the more we drag it out, the worse the long-term economic damage is going to be, and it's going to be
Oh,
terrible.
it's terrible. There's people suffering right now in their homes.
Yeah, and look, the government is not going to save us.
No.
It doesn't matter who's in the White House; it would still be a shit show. They
Yep.
can't do it, and we shouldn't think that they're going to do it. They're not going to make it safe. There is no such thing as safe.
A day of protest in America. They just in France, they do it. They go out on the weekend and all weekend they're out in the streets. Day of protest in America. This way we all get it and we say, okay, F you, quarantine's over. We want to go back to work.
Yes.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Lock up the whole country? Right now we're on lockdown.
Well, we're starting to crack heads in New York City, which is going to get interesting. There's been
Yeah.
a couple of videos already of the police, smacking people with billy clubs that aren't wearing masks, and
That's insane.
I guarantee you
That's
that's going to be okay for about 3 hours.
That's insane.
No, it's not. It's about to get very ugly, and it's probably going to force our hand. I think that
Hey,
people are
it's my
just going to start
hey,
demanding to come out.
as they've been telling me for the last 50 years, it's my body, my choice.
Hmm.
Did you just hijack the abortion debate?
Yes, he did.
I tied it in.
Jesus
Yes, he
Christ.
did.
But I'm just saying, I mean, there's times in our society they're like, okay, it's your body, do what you want. But then there's other times that the government says you can't do what you want. We're going to decide for you. Now, when they start arresting parents for going to the park with their kid, I just seen a video in New York where a mother walked into the subway with her child with no
That's the one I was
mask,
talking about.
and they arrested her and dragged her out.
They beat
You
her.
know,
Beat her
uh,
down.
when our government is doing that because somebody's not wearing a mask, it's become tyrannical.
Back to your point about the stupid laws, I was going to bring up the fact that our founding fathers had a little bit of a bumper sticker back then, and it was the sort of the lodestar that they had was, don't pass any laws that you are not prepared to enforce a point of a gun.
Yep.
And that makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? It's like, at a certain point, the personal responsibility part of the equation needs to be acknowledged, because if we're going to spend a lot of our time protecting stupid people from themselves and other stupid people, it just doesn't. Then all of a sudden you're welding people in their apartments like China, and it just doesn't end well.
And right now they're going against the Constitution because state legislatures are not even voting on these things. It's just governors.
Oh, state of emergency.
Right, state of emergency. So it's just governors. So right now, America's on a very fine edge because you never since any like maybe World War II or any of the other major wars, America's never had so few people dictating to the whole nation what they can and cannot do. You're basically looking at 50 governors and then the Senate, Congress and the president.
Yeah.
These people just get to tell you, and they don't have to show you or prove to you anything. They just tell you. What
They're,
happens next?
they're
What happens
essential.
next? They take away free speech. They're going to arrest people online, take away your social media, your internet.
We're ganging up on you, Patrick. I'm sorry.
No,
No,
no, I'm
Patrick's with
listening
us. Patrick's with
half-heartedly.
us. He doesn't like the government. He already stated that.
No, well, I'm not with you to the extent that you think I am.
He's
I
not. He's
don't.
not with the freedom orgy yet. He'll be.
Yeah,
He's almost
no,
there.
no, I'm not. But I will say, as far as yes, I agree. If governors think that, hey, listen, in a way, for certain situations, I will say, if they feel that, oh well, I can say whatever I want, you guys have to do it. I get that. I get why that would piss people off. But when it comes to people's health and well-being in this situation, and then you have the stupid people of this country doing what they're doing in response to that, that is where I have an issue, and I don't just go to the governors and go, oh, by the way, they're stupid for saying they can enforce rules because our people are fucking idiots. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? There's a
Yeah,
different,
it's not.
there's culpability on both sides of
It's
this,
a
and I
complicated.
feel that people want to if you're an average
Absolutely.
citizen, you want to blame the government. If you're the government, you want to blame the citizens. I feel like we're blaming each other.
Of course, that's what we're best at, right?
Right.
I, I think a lot of the stupid people are in politics.
Well, no, a lot of everyday citizens blame the politicians for saying, well, they're doing this to make money. Well, yeah, some of it may be that. But again, the majority of it is because we don't have very smart people in this country. Like by and large, we are not a very intelligent nation. But we like to think of ourselves as that. So what I'm saying is when the reality hits, a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people that are like, oh, it's going to mean this and it's going to mean that, and they catastrophize all that, like what comes after. Once they do that, it's over. The mental fight for them is over. I'm going to do what I want to do, and whatever. Instead of saying, hey, maybe there's a reason they're saying this. Maybe there's a reason they're saying
Agree,
this, and
Kelly.
not just everything is they're trying to control us. They're trying to do this. Not everything is that. So maybe we should step back for a second. Take a deep breath and realize that the government's not trying to fuck us at every turn. They're
Yeah.
trying to actually do something and give it. At
No.
first, it was a warning. It was just a warning. Like, hey, guys, fucking be smart. And then people weren't being smart, and then they started trying to enforce things. Notice how that went. It was, we tried to warn you, you didn't fucking listen, and you were being idiots, so we now have to enforce things. That is what happened in order. And it's like my parents, and I think the reason I'm okay with it to an extent is because of my parents and how I was raised, is if they give me a warning about something and I decide to blatantly go against it, now they're like, yo, you're fucking grounded. If you're a little kid, you're grounded. Done. We're taking your shit away. Your video games gone. We'll see you for the next 2 weeks or whatever it was. So I get it. Unfortunately, the government has seen the way the citizens, by and large, act, and are turning around like parents and saying, well, now we got to fucking ground you guys because you guys aren't listening. You guys aren't taking the hint. You're not using your brains. So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were done.
That's it. No, that was it. That was it.
I was going to say, here's one of the flaws in that, and I agree with you. We all kind of agree. We got different perspectives, different approaches, and maybe even different solutions. But we all kind of are on the same page. None of us want to see people suffer.
Agreed.
But here's one of the things: the government does not have this right or this power over us to dictate to us what we can and cannot do. The government works for us. They don't have no power to ground us. We have power to ground them, but they do not have.
Gotcha.
They do not have this power. No matter how good their intentions are, and how good their intentions are questionable. But they don't have this power over us. We've allowed them And for the most part, look at Americans have been sitting home for about a month, if not longer.
Over that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised Americans are doing such a good job at listening to
I would
this.
agree. And just real quick, I actually it bothers me that we have not sort of given ourselves, a pat on the back, right? Like
Hmm.
we flattened the curve. Like we did a great job, and like why
Everybody
like
stayed home.
nobody.
No, and that's why I said state by state. You guys did.
Well, no, New York didn't really, but again,
Okay.
it was a lot less than it was supposed to be. And the flattening the curve thing was what we agreed to do, and we did accomplish that. And to Ludwig's point, I actually was expecting civil unrest in Manhattan
Hmm.
almost right away. You know what I mean? Those first couple nights, it's like, wait a second, what's going to happen? And so far, my faith in humanity has been, supported, but I don't see that going on much longer. I really don't.
People are getting restless.
Oh yeah,
Natives are getting restless.
yeah, New York, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually impressed with how well that the American people have been compliant and peaceful and quiet. I mean, even on social media, the Americans are not asking for, they're not demanding really answers or justifications from their government. They're just sitting peacefully. They're spending their time.
Some people, but I
Well,
mean, you see
you're
what's
always going
happening
to
in
have
Michigan. You see what's
troublemakers.
happening here in Illinois. I mean, it's
You're always
the
going to have
Midwest is a
troublemakers.
fucking hotbed for it. Um, the Midwest seems to be a hotbed for we're not going to listen. We're going to do whatever we want. And here, let's go ahead and storm a Capitol building. Cool, awesome.
Well, like I said, I think we need to. I think we need to start a movement and have one day of protest, one weekend of protest, peaceful protest.
There was a
I think we should wait till this dies down, and then our protest should be where is our lost wages?
we know where
Well,
they
they gave
are.
it to the
No, we know
corporation.
where they are. I'm not saying that we wouldn't know where they are. I'm just saying as far as
Well, there was
trying
there
to
there
recoup something.
there was an April 1st meme that went around. It had this picture of Washington D.C. I forgot it was a real picture from like a real. It was like a million people like packed in marching, and it said April 1, COVID, the march to stop the spread. It was awesome. And ironically, if we'd done that, we actually might be already out of the woods. Just saying.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. This would have been over already.
Yeah. Well, hey, I got to go. I want to thank you both for a good conversation. I hope we can do it again.
I
Absolutely.
appreciate it, sir. Yeah, no, everybody be safe and keep
Yeah,
cool head.
definitely. Definitely. It does seem like we have more common ground than many would have us believe. So, bravo.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah,
Bye,
that's
everybody.
probably the calmest. That is the calmest you will find me on one of these. So congratulations.
All
All
right.
right.
Talk
All
to you
right.
again.
See you.